So this is the fifth Sabbath, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, fifth Sabbath. Ricky's not going to be with us. And I guess we're live now. So welcome, folks. Welcome to Prophecy Montana. My name is Kerry. We're going to have Tom Glatz teaching the lesson this morning. We have Serena Whitcomb.
You got it.
I finally got it right. And also Ben, I think, might be joining us as well. So, but we wanted to just real quick, we wanted to mention that Ricky's sick this morning, and he's been sick for the last couple of days. So, you guys could keep him in your prayers. Also, we want to do special prayer for Susan out there. If you guys, anybody listening out there, would please pray for Susan and her family. And I know Susan has been sick lately and in the hospital. So, but if she's watching this morning, we'll give her a big hello. And so what did Davin say?
Davin ain't there.
No, not Davin. I'm sorry, Ben.
Ben says, yeah, I know.
Okay, so he knows. So he'll roll
Let's
in.
make a late entrance, you know?
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah, sorry. Too much Canada time. Sorry about that, folks.
Yeah. Or California. We were just talking about the terminology A.
Oh,
The Mexicans use it in California too.
I say A a lot. My friends in high school used to make fun of me. They're like, "Where are you from? You're from here." So just stop.
Well,
I'm like, I don't know.
close enough from Canada, I guess some of that spills over a little bit.
Right?
You get up into northern Montana, and a lot of the people in northern Montana speak a little Canadian-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought. But they did not prevail, nor was there a place found for them in heaven any longer. Revelation 12, 7 and 8.
This is going to be probably one of my. Come on in, Ben. We got a chair waiting for you here. This is going to easily be one of my favorite lessons of the year.
Yeah, I mean, this is fascinating. So the question we got to figure out is, when was this war in heaven? You know, that's a fascinating question. When would you think this war in heaven took place?
Well, I've always kind of understood it, and it's always been taught to me that this was pre-Earth's creation.
Mm-hmm.
So how long, we don't know. I mean, but it could have been fairly soon before the... Now, Ivor Myers had a whole series on this, and it was interesting how he touched across this and the creation of us, mankind, because... And it was kind of weird how he started it off, but his claim was that mankind was created for a third-party witness, or a jury, if you will, a sit-in jury, to be able to judge between God and Satan. I know.
Oh, well, that's an interesting thought.
Yeah, it was huge.
I'd like to hear the scripture on that one.
Yeah. He pulled it together somehow. Everything that he seems to do, he pulls together in this miraculous way. Almost sounds like heresy at first, but then once he starts pulling out the scriptures, it pulls it all together.
So that's why I had children. They could judge between Melinda and myself. Was it what was?
What does that mean if I don't have a wife or children?
Well, you didn't have. Then there's no. If you don't have wife, you don't have a wife, then there's no controversy.
Oh,
You know.
I'm just all by myself.
But if you have a wife, there is no controversy. You're wrong.
Huh.
You know, so that's the way it works.
I don't argue with myself, that's for sure.
Okay, I think what we need to do is take a look at the first verse of chapter 12. And Lisa, you don't mind, I'm just going nuts with my how fuzzy I am. Although it's gotten rid of all the wrinkles there. If you can just somehow focus.
That's as good as it gets.
That's as good as it gets. I'm sorry, I made you guys take that projector.
It's a little obnoxious, but we live with it.
Okay, so we gotta go to chapter 12, verse 1.
Do I need to bring
okay?
a screen?
No, we're working on something here. Chapter 12, verse 1. All right. I need someone to read verses 1 through 6.
And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon its heads. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. It did not cast them down to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days.
Okay. So there is, when does this take place? So you all know when this takes place? This takes place, this woman, when was this baby Jesus born, you know?
Yeah, it's like, that's Christ.
Yeah, there you go. Slow moving this morning. So 2,000 years ago, Jesus is born. Here we have this woman. Who's the woman?
That would be the church.
This is the church. This is the Jewish nation, you know, which it was the church at the time. And the Jewish nation bears a child. The child is Jesus, and eventually, after his ministry, is taken up into heaven. Okay?
Right.
That's the context of the next verse. Okay? And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought. But they did not prevail, nor was there a place found for them in heaven. Notice the next 2 words. Any longer. Oh, am I supposed to be using that microphone? Thank you so much, Ben. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so there's a place was not found any longer.
Tom's mic is low.
Am I too loud?
Just listening to him.
Yeah, okay. Well,
No, it was just far away.
it was far away before, you know, it was just, so there's no place for them found any longer. Does those 2 words matter?
Yes,
Why?
because it means God was patient with him and let it work out for a long time.
How long? According to the context of what we just read earlier than that.
Probably 4,000 years then,
Yeah.
if not more.
How long? It's my contention. I'm going to get it across to you right now, that this is a reference to Jesus going back up into heaven after his resurrection and ascension, and finally casting out Satan for good. Notice there it says any longer. So they were cast out before in the Bible, right there. You find that, you know, early on they are cast out, sent down to this earth. But is there evidence that Satan had access to heaven after they were cast out the first time?
Yes.
What was that? Yeah, the story of Job, right? So in the story of Job, Satan had access.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So Satan has access up there, and he keeps going up there. Now, what would change it? What would change it that he would no longer have access anymore? Did they put up gates in heaven? So, you know, surveillance cameras? What happened that there's he had no longer had access to heaven?
Well, Jesus died.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think if I got to think about this one because Well, I mean, if God says no entry, then it's no entry. Period.
Yeah, yeah.
mean, you
Is that
know.
how God works?
Oh boy, you're going somewhere with this, and
I know I am. I'm waiting to see if you guys get it or not. Of
we don't get it.
course,
yet.
I could be. I'm wrong. Could be wrong. That's why you're not getting it. That's fine.
But I see where you're going with it, and I like it so far. My brain's got to catch up to it.
Could it be he didn't go up to heaven anymore because no one was listening?
Interesting.
Things
so,
changed.
So the case has been made. Everything's been settled at this point. So the argument was Satan was presenting his argument, but at this point, after the death of Christ, then it was certain who was right and who was wrong.
There was nobody listening
There's
anymore.
no question anymore.
There was no doubt. There was no hidden thoughts in the brains of any angel up there. The cross made all the difference.
So in essence, because we as Adventists, we talk about judgment all the time, right? You know, when we read Revelation 14, we read about the judgment that's taking place right now, what we call the investigative judgment of the living, right? And all the past dead. But was there, obviously this almost sounds like a judgment in heaven that ended at the cross. Now, our judgment hasn't ended, but that judgment did. Everything was settled right then and there in those courts.
Look at verse 10, okay? Someone read verse 10. Revelation 12, verse 10. Go ahead, somebody.
Oh, I thought
I thought you said you were going to read
No,
it.
And I heard a
never
loud
said
voice
that.
saying in heaven, "Now has come salvation and strength in the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night."
So, was he the so here he's the accuser of the brethren. Who was he accusing? The angels in heaven?
No, he's accusing us, the
Right.
sinners.
So this has to take place after sinners were there on earth. So it cannot be reference to Satan being cast down to heaven before Adam and Eve sinned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
So I'm arguing that this is a reference to, and also notice there, now salvation and strength in the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ have come. When can you proclaim that? You proclaim that after the cross.
After it is done,
Yes.
or it is finished.
So the great controversy theme is about whether or not Satan has an audience, whether or not people are listening to him. And it's apparent after the cross, no one in heaven is listening anymore.
They've all settled. They've all made up their minds.
Yeah.
It's done. It's finished. Of course, our judgment's not over, but now I wonder, because we're told a third of the angels fell. Was that a probationary period for them during that period of time, or did their probationary period end prior to that?
If you read Ellen White, she says they had lost. They had been in the presence of God. They had lost. They were cast down to earth before creation took place. They had already lost. The only issue was whether or not somebody else up in heaven would listen to them. That was the real issue. So it's whether or not somebody's listening to Satan.
So there, we're talking maybe other worlds out there. We mention it once in a while, but obviously we're not the only creation.
No.
I don't think we are. Now, that's not to say we're being visited by aliens, because I think those are demons masquerading as,
Absolutely.
But these other worlds, unfallen,
They're watching the great controversy.
they're watching everything unfold. And at that point, they made their mind up 100% that God has been vindicated through this whole thing.
Yeah, they saw Jesus die on a cross. They're like, oh, okay.
So look at now verse 12. Okay, someone read verse 12.
Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth, and of the seal.
See.
Oh, yeah, that's what it says. Got an exclamation point there, look like an L. And of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time.
Yeah. Yeah. And what caused that short time? The cross. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So that's my argument, and there'll be people who disagree with me, but it just seemed to me that there was just lots of evidence that Satan no longer had an audience in heaven.
It's a good it's a logical conclusion, really. I mean, I'm going to think about that all week now.
Oh, good.
But it is a logical conclusion.
So it says in the lesson here, these verses describe a cosmic conflict between good and evil. Satan and his angels warred against Christ and eventually were cast out of heaven. It seems extremely strange that the war would break out in such a perfect place in heaven. Why did it happen? Did a loving God create a demonic angel who initiated this war? Was there some fatal flaw in this angel that led him to rebel? The Bible clearly explains the origin of evil. It draws the curtain aside in this conflict between good and evil. So now we get to go to Ezekiel 28, and we're going to see some fun stuff here. Ezekiel 28. 12 to 15.
Ezekiel 28. Ezekiel and Isaiah both are really good books. What verse?
12 to 15.
Anybody else want to?
I got it,
Go
yeah.
ahead, Serena.
Son of man, raise a lamentation over the king of Tyre and say to him, Thus says the Lord God, You are the signet of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering. Sardius, topaz, and diamond, beryl, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, emerald, and carbuncle, and crafted in gold were your settings and your engravings. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were an anointed guardian cherub, I placed you. You were on the holy mountain of God, in the midst of the stones where you walked. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created, till unrighteousness was found in you.
This is interesting because he addresses the king of Tyrus, but then it kind of morphs into the description of Lucifer here.
Well, I think one of the things that helps us understand this is look at verse 1. Okay? The word of the Lord came to me again, saying, Son of man, say to the prince of Tyre. So he's referring to the prince of Tyre, and there all the things he talks about in that section are all earthly things. And then he moves to the king of Tyre. Now, the prince of Tyre is the earthly ruler. The king of Tyre is the one that's behind it all. And that's my submission to you.
And that is interesting. And this shows how Satan works. He works through human agencies, the same as God works. And I don't know if they can work outside of human agencies, can they? They pretty much need us to do, because we're hosts, basically, right? From what I understand?
Yeah.
From what the Bible explains?
They're not trying to deceive each other. They're trying to deceive man.
But if we don't have the Spirit of God in us by default, then we'll have the Spirit of Satan in us.
Yeah.
Right.
We're told this, right?
Yeah, it's black or white.
Yeah, it's one or the other. That we don't, and we can choose by, who we follow, which spirit we possess.
So you look at verse 15. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created, till iniquity was found in you. So why would God allow this possibility of iniquity in one of his angels, his greatest angel?
That's a huge philosophical debate.
That's called free choice.
Wow. Most atheists do not believe in free choice. It's they believe that we're all determined. That's the term. Is man determined?
I've never understood that.
Are we robots?
But
Do we have a choice to follow God or not?
Yeah.
Well, pretend there is no God. Let's take the atheist standpoint on that topic. I mean, how do we not have choice? I don't understand.
Oh, they argue, and I suspect rightly so, that many of us or most of us just follow blindly or just go with the flow of what we grew up with. Imagine this. I grew up in San Diego. I surfed. If I grew up in Montana, I wouldn't be a surfer.
True. I surfed a little bit too until I got a black eye. The board hit me in the face.
And that does happen. Yes. But here's the argument against it. Yeah, I surfed. But if I had a choice, the moment I got my driver's license in my car, I drove off to the mountains an hour away and climbed a mountain. So I was not following the pattern of what you expected of a Southern California boy. I was off to the mountains. In fact, I made a pact with my friend Takayuki Yoda that we would only date girls from mountain states. You know? And so we wouldn't date any Michigan girls at all.
I'm guessing he was Japanese.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just a wild.
Yeah, wild guess there, right? You know. Yeah, we put a big picture of Yoda on his dorm room one time at school. Anyways, so I broke the mold. So I made some choice there. So here we find this angel, this amazing angel with all the opportunities you can only dream of, rebelling against God. So you're saying that we've got choice, right?
Absolutely.
Why would you argue for that?
Well, because it's up to me to decide on what I do. I have a choice to lay in my bed or go to work or be kind or
not.
yeah, the opposite of kind.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
Well, Jordan Peterson was asked this question, I think, by Joe Rogan once.
Joe Rogan is a determinist. He believes that you are determined. And that term determined means somebody else has, life has determined your choices.
That's interesting because that builds the plot of the conversation between him and Jordan Peterson then, because he asked the same question, like, okay, so if God is perfect, why did he create Satan?
Yeah.
And Jordan Peterson answered it to my satisfaction. But basically, you can't be perfect unless you do have choice, was the sum of it. That is perfection. Perfection is given choice. I mean, if you were a loving God, and a loving God would have to give choice, because a malevolent God, M, wouldn't give choice. Mm-hmm. He would only choose dominion. Whereas a benevolent God, a loving God, would allow the opportunity to say no, to rebel, to not accept God's love.
Mm-hmm. It kind of reminds me of, I heard this definition of what is peaceful. Well, to know peace, you either have to be a complete pacifist, belly up, or to know strife and to choose peace. It's kind of have to be able to experience both and choose the one rather than just being programmed for that.
And I'm curious where now I got to look into some of these arguments of, what did you call him, a determinist?
Yeah.
Because when he tells his story and his testimony of how he, got where he was at, sound like he had choices too.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
It's a really kind of a bizarre. I want to just take 1 second here. Ricky has asked us to give Angela a shout out. That's his sister. So we'll just say happy birthday, Angela.
Happy birthday to you.
If she's watching.
Yeah, Isaiah 14. Okay, let's go on.
Isaiah 14?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm read Isaiah now going on the 5th time in a row, and it's just chocked with stuff. Like you just can't keep getting new stuff out of it.
All right, someone, verses 12 to 14. Isaiah 14, 12 to 14.
How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High.
Okay, so what's the problem here with Satan?
He's got an eye problem. He's trying to sell a typewriter that's missing the I button. I
Yeah.
button's broken.
He thinks
Yeah.
he's better than his creator.
Yeah, the problem is his eyes are too close together.
Eyes are too close together.
But, you know, so what does he want?
pretty
What does he want here? What's his goal?
Worship.
Worship, adoration.
Yeah, where's his goal? Where's his goal in here?
To be above God.
Yeah.
He wants to be God. He wants to be like God, but he doesn't want to really be like God.
Where does he physically want to be?
He wants to be on the throne of God.
How do you know that?
He says, for thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit upon the mount of congregation in the sides of the north. So,
What's the sides of the north?
I don't know.
Okay. Think about the sanctuary. Okay. If you are looking at the sanctuary, if you're standing at the entrance of the sanctuary, what direction are you facing?
North?
No.
No.
No. Boy, you're going to run out of options here.
I'm getting closer though, ain't I?
So the
It's either
worshipers
east or west now.
very purposefully,
Oh, that's right.
God
Faced
sets it
away
up
from the
so the
sun.
worshipers' backs are to the rising sun.
So they're facing west.
They're facing west. Okay? They're facing west. Now they're facing west. You enter the sanctuary. What is on the north side?
That would be the table showbreads on the right. The candlesticks? No.
I'm facing west. Which direction is north?
Oh, north
you're
is to
right.
my right. So it'd be the showbread.
Thank you. You guys are spatially challenged here. So it's a table.
Don't ever go hiking with me in the woods, Tom. I'm just warning you right now.
It's a table of showbread, right? The table of showbread. Okay, what's on the table of showbread?
Bread.
The bread of life, right?
Yeah.
It's 2 stacks. Why are there 2 stacks?
Jews and Gentiles?
It's a throne. It's a throne. It's a throne, right?
What?
What?
Good and bad?
No, that's yin and
It's a
yang.
throne. Who sits on the throne? Yeah, it's not the yin and yang. No. Who sits on the throne? Who sits on the throne?
Oh, you got the Father and the Son?
And the Son. And the
So
Son.
there's the 2 loaves?
That's why you have the 2 stacks.
Okay, all right.
You have the
Gotcha.
2 stacks, the Father and the Son sharing. Now, see, the throne of God was like a couch. Now, I was holding an evangelistic campaign down in Peru, and I had a translator, and I wasn't listening to the translator because, I was thinking about my next sentence. And I said the throne of God is like a couch. Well, this translator had never heard the term couch before. He had heard the term sofa, but he didn't ever heard the term couch. So he thought I said cow. And so now the throne of God is a cow that Jesus and God sit on. Anyways, luckily there was somebody actually listening to the translator. Oh, wait a minute.
I think he meant sofa, not vodka.
Yeah, not vodka. Yeah, no. So anyways, so this is he wants to get in there, and I don't know what Satan wants. Does he want to just kind of find room on that table of showbread for himself also?
Third stack, yeah.
Yeah. That's the throne of God in the holy place. Now, God has a throne in the most holy place, but that's the throne of God in the holy place. The sides of the north.
The sides of the north. That's interesting. I had never
So he
translated
wants that throne.
That's good.
He wants to be sitting on that throne of God, right?
Okay.
Pretty ambitious, don't you think?
That's an extremely ambitious endeavor.
He moves from a natural desire to worship to a desire to be worshipped. How does that happen in a person?
Arrogance.
You know, none of these things, none of these inclinations of our heart, none of these sinful inclinations happen overnight. To go from, you know, let's take an extreme example, to become a serial killer. That just doesn't happen you just don't wake up and become a serial killer. There's a process. Mm-hmm. There's a process of degradation that takes place in the mind. And they say a lot of these serial killers will start off, for example, with like pornography. Okay, something, you know, a lot of people partake in. And it doesn't really affect them the same way. But then it takes them down these roads, right? Of seeking more and more extreme. Mm-hmm. And, you know, because it's like any kind of pleasure seeking. Once you want, you know, ungodly pleasure seeking, because God gives us pleasure too. And in the confines of his circle of pleasure, you don't have the same dynamics. But when you're seeking sin like that, you lose the. Like I remember the first time I drank. I'm trying to make an example. I'm kind of stammering on this a little bit. So the first time I drank, I was like, I'm having the greatest time of my life. This is like the best thing ever. Second time I drank, wasn't so good. Third time wasn't so. And so I kept chasing that first time. And over the years, it just kept getting further and further away. That feeling, that first time feeling just kept getting further and further away. And you start drinking more. Then you go into drugs. And then you go, you know, and you're looking for that high. And a lot of addicts will relate to what I'm saying. And you never really find that original high again. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like where sin will take you, just down these deep, dark paths, and it'll just keep going and going and going. And where's the end? It just keeps getting more and more deranged all the time.
But I think worship's like that both ways. So, you know, your first experience worshiping God is great, but don't we always look for a better way to express that, a deeper meaning?
You have to choose what you water, right, and what you're paying attention to, which thoughts you're, you know, shaking out of your head, and what's ones you're holding on to and letting them fester or grow.
Because I think we all have addict minds, if you will.
Interesting.
And maybe the addict mind was originally intended to become an addict to God.
That's,
you know,
I
to
think
be
that's
addicted.
why God, you know, Jesus was, you know, with the prostitutes, drug dealers, whatever, you know, the so-called scum of the earth, is because he was like, okay, these people have it in them to place this idol above God and are like steadfast on this. How great would they be if it was for the right reason?
Genesis 2:15-17.
Genesis 2:15-17.
Yes.
Good morning, brother. How you doing? He says, I'm late. Happy Sabbath, y'all.
All right.
I was wondering if somebody else was going to check in. We haven't seen Watchman either. Watchman's quiet. I hope everything is okay in Watchman's world. We haven't had a session without Watchman in how long?
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
It's like crickets up there.
Yeah, it's pretty quiet. So you guys feel free to fill up the chat with questions, answers, comments.
Okay, so let's take a look at verse 15.
There
Serena?
he is. Watchman's here.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
we were feeling pretty empty there for a little while, Watchman. Thank you for showing up.
All right, 15-17.
The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, You may surely eat of every tree of the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it you shall surely die.
Okay, so every tree, I've got a couple questions to let you think for a moment here, okay? You could eat of every tree except for one. Does that mean every tree?
That's what he said.
Okay. Were they allowed to eat from the tree of life?
Yeah. Well, now,
I don't think they've gotten that far.
Oh, that's interesting. Because the tree of life was taken out because it said, unless thou eat of it and live forever. Remember? Because right after the fall,
maybe they were eating from the tree of life, and after they ate from the tree that they're not supposed to, they're like, no, don't eat that. You can't eat that tree of life anymore.
So is the tree of life a one-time thing, or is it something
I think it's continual.
interesting?
Because in heaven, we're going to eat of it.
Remember when, was it Elijah that ate the cakes made by the angel? He ate a cake and he fell asleep and he woke up and he ate some more. And he said he traveled for like how long? Like 30 days or something like that without eating or drinking or sleeping?
Faster than a chariot.
Duh.
What's that?
Faster than a chariot.
He was moving.
So I wonder if the tree of life was available to them before sin, and that the tree of life is not something that's a one-time taste, you know. It's a regular taste, but they lost that. Okay.
They lost. Well, they definitely lost it.
So what's this tree of knowledge of good and evil? What's it all about? Why would God set up this tree?
Some have hypothesized that that was the chocolate tree. No, I'm just
It's the red pill tree.
So what was the question again?
Why?
Why do you make it?
Yeah.
Shows
to
that
make
they
that
have
tree.
choice.
Choice. Okay. So what did it symbolize when both Adam and Eve partook of the fruit?
They were able to choose something besides God.
They had the option, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah, they had the option.
And I was under the impression, and I don't know where I got this from, but all of the worlds had the tree of life on it up until the death of Christ and the resurrection of Christ. Then, or not the tree of life, I'm sorry, the tree of knowledge of good and evil was that tree was on all of the planets everywhere. And then at the resurrection of Christ, then that tree was taken out.
Okay. So Roy Gain described it as a voting booth. You got to vote for God or vote against God. That's all it was. It was a voting booth. You know, you and I don't know if you have voting booths in your homes. You know, I'm part of this family or I'm not part of this family, you know.
Well, if the earth is our home, I guess we do have voting booths, you know, so we still partake in the voting tradition.
Yeah, you know, I have a voting booth every day at home.
Oh.
You know, it's I tell you what it is. It's how I drink from the sink after I brush my teeth. Because I've always put my mouth down there and drank directly from the faucet. That was disgusting to a certain female person in the home.
Yeah, I think you told us this story. And she brought along a cup, and she said, this is how it's going to be
Yeah,
done.
she wants you to clean your hands, and you cup your hands, and you bring it up to your mouth. You know, it's kind of like, you know, that whole, who was that Gideon thing? You know, the ones that you know,
Yeah.
put it up their mouths, or one
Yeah.
drank from
Or
there.
if they
Well, that
did-
was
if they-
apparently that was a serious thing in our home, and and I thought about it.
So you weren't allowed to lap the water. You had to cup it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And therefore, he was fit for battle.
Yeah. and you know, I could just say, hey, listen, this is my sink. You got your own sink. You don't bother me what I'm going to do, right? Well, it turned out I realized that sink was a voting booth. And I decided that, you know what? This bothers her. You know, and so I transformed my behavior. I voted for her. And I read an article about this lady who kept reminding her husband to put the glass that he used to drink water in the dishwasher. Don't just leave it in the sink. Just put it in the dishwasher. And then he started, and he never did, and she ended up divorcing him. And he ultimately said she was right to divorce me, because through that and many other things he listed, I was showing her I didn't care about her.
I wasn't sheltered.
No, not at all. She
Well-
was getting the message quite loud and clear. I really don't love you.
It might have been, if that's all it was the glass. But it's like sin. He probably exhibited the behavior in many other ways as
Yeah.
well. But the glass was just a little thing that meant a lot to her. That would show her that she was being listened to and respected or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and I clean my sink after I shave. I get it all nice and clean. And Linda says, "You clean the sink?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "My girlfriend's husbands don't clean the sink." I said, "Well, I choose you," you know. So, you know, that's just, you know, that's what was going on there. That was just simply a voting booth. It was, you know, and we've got so many different ways that we act to do that. So let's look at Exodus 32:26.
Exodus 32:26. 32:26. Then Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, "Who is on the Lord's side? Let him come unto me." And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves unto. You know what? I was looking for this verse this morning and I couldn't find it. Why was I looking for this verse? I think I was thinking in my mind that the drawing of the line in the sand,
Yeah.
you know, the division, you know, all who are on God's side stand on this side, all who are on the other side.
So basically, that's what's happening is people are making choices. You know, they're making choices here. So that's what I just wanted you to take a look at. And that was kind of what was really on my heart, is for us to help understand that we all make choices, and God gives us opportunities for choices, and we make that choice. There's a lady that Schwab Investments accidentally put $1.2 million in her account.
Whoops.
And she quickly withdrew it and cashed it out.
Who is this?
Some lady back east.
She saw that her
Her account had it jumped it up to 1.2 million, and she withdrew it. And they're suing her. Problem is, she'll probably win because she never asked for it. They gave it to her, and she may win. Now, she legally may end up winning and getting that $1.2 million. Is she morally right? She's wrong, isn't she? You know?
Yeah, I would have to say that was wrong. The message this past week is they still chose Barabbas.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's another choice, huh?
Yeah, they did choose Barabbas. There you go. God's always giving us choices. You know.
Interesting little factoid here. The word Bar Abba means the father's son.
Mm-hmm. So, anybody here tell us about any choices you had to make recently?
I make them all the time. I mean, like Ben was saying, we got to choose to get up out of bed.
I chose to work 13 hours yesterday.
I got to choose to pay my wife when we're done with a job.
Yeah.
It can get ugly if I don't. I wonder why she wants to get paid after work.
So look at this. We're going to be in Romans 5:12. You will recognize this verse right away.
Romans 5.
Yeah. We are leaving our fleshly desires. Yeah. Look at Romans 5:12. Romans 5:12. Someone read that, please.
Therefore, just as sin came into the world through one man, and death through sin, and so death spread to all men because all sinned.
Yeah. So how did the Adam and Eve thing work out? What was the result of their choice?
Death.
Death of their second son.
Yeah, it was death of the whole human race.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a cascade of calamities that just took place after this one little sin. It's interesting to me that people say, "Well, it doesn't matter what you eat, right?" Well, it mattered then, and then it matters what we'll be eating at the end.
Mattered then. That's good.
Well, it wasn't just the death of man and woman; it was also the death of this world. Because Ellen White says that when Adam saw the first flower wilt, he like was in such grief, more than any man has ever been in grief over a loved one dying.
I remember reading that, yes.
Like
Well,
it was the beginning of death for everything.
He really began to feel the weight of his choices.
Yeah.
We see
Now-
this sacrificial system starts right away with Cain and Abel, so they have to participate in death. To which would I'm sure be,
That's
you know, we
interesting.
become desensitized to it. I think especially in Montana, we're a hunting state, we're a cattle state. But that first time to see anything like die like that would have to have been incredibly traumatic.
Well, that, and then also there's like what Adam and Eve were wearing fig leaves at first, and then God put them in animal skins. I mean, that's that's pretty rough right off the bat.
What you just said there, we are desensitized to an extreme degree. I used to be a murderer. I mean, I wasn't just a hunter. I loved I loved to kill, so much so that I would. We got a job deprivating wild hogs, and I got a lot of joy out of killing as many pigs as I could, and it was for the good of the earth, right? It was good with the fields, everything else. But I remember the first time I killed something. It completely ruined me.
Yeah.
We had some diseased cats, and my mom gave me a pellet gun. She goes, "We have to get rid of these cats." So go out, and I must have been 9 years old. And I remember shooting these cats, and it destroyed me. For a whole year, I was not right. And, I mean, it had to be done, right? It had to be done. And I did it, and I felt terrible for it. But then I later became desensitized to the same thing, and you know, I'm not that way now. Of course, I'm a little softy. I see the deer out there chewing on their
Give 'em
grass
hugs.
and stuff, and
Love you.
I don't know. Those deer came and chewed up the bark on my trees right now. I have murderous thoughts towards those deer right now.
they'll do that too. They'll kill your trees.
Oh, man. So I remember Hebrews chapter 2, verse 9.
Oh yeah, my brother says that was brutal. I remember that vividly. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and kittens, wild boars. I think it's a little bit easier to do the wild boars. You know,
Yeah, the wild boars were a scourge. The
Yeah.
little kittens.
I could
yeah.
do that with these.
Yeah,
Especially when they come chasing after you.
I was charged by 2 of them.
Yeah.
They were both about this tall.
Yeah.
I wanted one.
She
Field
wanted to keep
goal.
one. I'm like, that thing's charged me, and it's only this tall. What's it gonna do when it's this tall?
I said we need a charger.
So somebody read Hebrews 2, verse 9.
Hebrews 2, verse 9.
But we see him who, for a little while, was made lower than the angels, namely Jesus, crowned with glory and honor because of the suffering of death, so that by the grace of God he might taste death for everyone.
So Jesus tasted death for everyone. You know, so the great controversy is that Adam brings sin into the world. The second Adam, Jesus, takes the option of sin away from us if we don't want it. And that's the point of the cross, is that, you know, choice is returned. We didn't have any choice about death after Adam drove the bus off the cliff. You know, we went with Adam. Choice is returned at the cross. So that's the whole point of, you know, when people argue about whether or not you have choice, that's the whole point of the cross, to give you your choice back.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty awesome, you know. All right.
That is awesome. Because sin, it said that the devil will take you further than you're willing to go, keep you longer than you're willing to stay, and it'll cost you more than you were willing to pay. You know, Jesus comes and returns our freedom. know, what's the old ad for Winston or Marlboro cigarettes? Free men smoke Marlboro, or how does that go? Or free men smoke Winston, or there was some slogan like that. It's like when I smoked, I didn't feel free. I felt trapped. It was a prison,
Yeah.
and to break out of that prison was a real problem. But when I came back to the church, it was Jesus. It was the Word of God. It was worshiping God. It was rediscovering who God was that broke those chains and gave me freedom.
Since we're in Hebrews, we're going to go to Hebrews 4:15 to 16. By the way, if you're in the lesson, we're on Thursday. Problem with this projector is hard to read.
I know. Yeah.
Right on the side over there.
Yeah. Watchman says it's desensitizing or institutionalizing. It's good to have a conscience. It may not feel good all the time, but you know it's there, and it's the Holy Spirit. Yeah, that's right. That's another proof of evolution doesn't exist. I mean, what's the purpose of a conscience if we're just evolved creatures? Right? It teaches survival of the fittest. I mean, the strong should be killing off the weak then, right? But society says that that's wrong. How could you say it's right and wrong? I mean, it's oxymoron, isn't it? I mean, it's double standards.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is what evolution is, the strong killing the weak, but when the strong do kill the weak, it's like you're a bully.
So Hebrews 4, we're in chapter 4:15 and 16.
4.
I'm waiting for someone. Hebrews chapter
For
4.
we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feelings of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need.
Okay. So Jesus makes way to the throne, okay? And what is the attitude of God about us going to the throne?
Go boldly.
Go boldly, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Before the throne of God.
When do you go boldly? After you cleaned up your act?
No, that's when you go boldly, is to obtain mercy.
Yes.
Yeah. This is the beauty of how God has set this up, is we come as we are. But he doesn't leave us that way. And the Christian message has always been kind of muddied between the two extremes, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
You know, one extreme will say you got to get clean before you can come before God.
Mm-hmm.
The other extreme will say you never have to get clean. You just come before God, and you're always dirty, and you never have to clean up ever.
But
ever
that
again.
was why he died on the cross. That was the Old Testament of you have to do all these things to clean yourself before you can come before God. Now he says, come boldly as you are.
Was it, or was it the same? Because I look at some of those old ceremonial laws. Now, we're told that those were added because of sin, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so all of the ceremonial things, aside from the death even the lamb was added because of sin.
Mm-hmm.
But the lamb was to take our sin away. It was a representation of the one who would take our sin away, excuse me.
Yeah.
They began to believe that the lamb itself took the sin away, and that was incorrect.
Okay, we're going to take a look at this next one. This is Hebrews chapter 7, verse 25. This is such a powerful verse. We need to know this one because that's such an encouraging one.
Wherefore he is able also to save them to the uttermost that come unto God by him, seeing he ever liveth to make intercession for them.
I love that word, to the uttermost. It's not the slightly sinner, you know.
This is the bad one.
It's the real bad one.
This is the Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh my!
You know, he gave his life to Jesus.
Didn't know
He
that.
became a Seventh-day Adventist,
Didn't know that.
and he was murdered shortly after.
Yeah.
Yeah. He says, I don't want to ever come out of prison, he said. He says, I'll go back to what I was doing before.
Yeah. Wow.
This is the best place for me.
Wow.
Powerful testimony.
Yeah. So God is able to save to the uttermost. those who come to him. And so it's just really simply getting people to come to Jesus. You know, you've heard that term. You know, it's a humorous term. Well, it's that come to Jesus time right now. You know, it's a cute thing people say in a sense,
An overused cliche.
but it's a real thing.
It's a real deal.
You know,
That's right.
He and why can he do this? Because he's interceding for us, you know, on our behalf. Ah, welcome, Ricky.
Just drop some books off.
Yeah,
Go home and go to sleep.
very kind to him. Yeah, yeah.
I want to touch real quick on what Rochman's saying. The doctrines are dissensions or divisions as well. Any of them seem to divide away from Christ.
Well, but the doctrines are teachings of who Christ is, and you want to get it correct. You want to get
Yes.
an understanding of who Christ is. Does Christ, you know, does he plead with the Father because the Father's angry at us, and now he's coming in, and he's saying, "Oh, don't be angry with them." Is that the picture we have of God? Some people teach that picture of God.
Can you have a relationship with somebody just by, or saying that you know them just because you know their name?
Well, that's a good point. Well, and I know where Watchman's going with this, but Tom is correct, and the reason why there are so many dissensions is because the devil has entered the chat room, if you will.
Oh, that's good terminology.
You
I
know what I'm
like that.
saying? And he has muddied the waters, and a lot of Christians unwittingly have been duped into believing falsely of who Jesus is, and like, for example, the doctrine of death.
Yeah.
You know, what happens after we die. It's very important to understand that doctrine correctly.
Yeah.
Now, the Protestants and the Catholics in Ireland are, you know, at one time were fighting and killing each other, right? And this was something that historically has happened for many years. But I think maybe both of them had the doctrines incorrect, perhaps. What were you going to say, Lisa?
Let everyone know that Ricky's not here because he's sick.
Oh, I did already.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Say it again, maybe.
Yeah. If in case any of you guys weren't watching, Ricky's got the, I guess, sore throat, really bad sore throat.
Yeah.
He was coughing up blood. So, yeah.
So, final verse, and you know me, I like to cover the lesson, and we only got just 2 minutes left.
Oh, wow.
John 17:24-26, okay? We're going to end with this one, and just save time, I'm going to read it. Father, I desire that they also, whom you gave me, may be with me, whom you, where I am, that they may behold my glory, which you have given me, for you loved me before the foundation of the world. O righteous Father, the world has not known you, but I have known you, and these have known that you sent me. And I have declared to them your name, and I will declare it, that the love with which you loved me may be in them, and I in them. Our path to the Father, who is the Father of love, is through Jesus Christ, his Son. And what Jesus has done for us has cleared the path to the sanctuary, because we know how great the sin we have. He has provided a path back through the sanctuary, and he's always there interceding on our behalf. Vote for Jesus.
Vote for Jesus. I'm voting for Jesus. How about you guys? This election, it's Jesus all the way.
No one else will save you.
I mean, we're told not to tell people who to vote for, but this time we're going to tell you guys vote for Jesus.
There you go.
It's a guaranteed win.
Way better economy.
And Watchman's given us Galatians 5:23. It says, meekness, temperance, against such there is no law. And
Yeah.
that is a fact, because there's a law against murder, right? Against
Yeah.
adultery. There's a law against, stealing, lying. There's all these laws, but meekness and temperance, there is no laws against that, right?
Yep.
That's you're good to go. True belief will bring good works, and the eschatology of judgments will not be a center focal point anymore, but rather a happening. But we are not guaranteed any day. What do you say about that, Tom?
The judgment is very clear. You are judged by the friends you keep. Everyone is judged by the friends you keep. Keep Jesus as your friend.
Amen.
Amen. Yep, judgment will be a big part. It's been a big part of the angels,
Yeah.
as we'll see in this lesson that Tom very skillfully laid out for us today, and it'll continue to be laid out as we go through the lesson, that judgment is a huge part of what's taken place, between the angels during the war in heaven and, of course, with us in these days that we live in. There'll be a final judgment of the wicked,
Yep.
when the wicked are given their final punishment, if you will. And what do we got here? Oh, we're a little bit over time. So anyways, folks, thanks for watching. I'm glad you made it, Watchmen. We were a little worried there first. We thought you were going to not be here, and maybe we were going to have a special prayer for you, brother. Thanks, Damien, for showing up. And happy birthday, Angela. And get better, Ricky. And who else? And whoever's out there. And let's keep our prayers going for Susan.